World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This is World News in 5 and I'm your host, Steph Vicente. The Israeli military has confirmed for the first time that its forces opened fire on a car carrying 5-year-old Palestinian girl, Hind Rajab, who was killed along with 6 relatives in Gaza in the year 2024. The BBC reports Hind initially survived the attack and spent hours on the phone pleading with Palestinian Red Crescent operators for help as she described Israeli tanks near the vehicle. An ambulance sent to rescue her, reportedly with coordination from the Israeli military, was later shelled, killing 2 paramedics. The Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, said it will open a criminal investigation into the deaths of Hind, her relatives, and the paramedics, along with the March 2025 killings of 15 Palestinians, including medical workers and a United Nations employee. The IDF said its review found that troops fired at a vehicle traveling contrary to an advance notice issued to residents, while also citing alleged failures in coordinating the ambulance's movement. Hind's death drew international condemnation after recordings of her desperate calls for help were broadcast around the world. In other news overseas, the United States federal debt has reached a record $40 trillion according to the U.S. Treasury Department, raising renewed concerns about the country's long-term fiscal outlook. According to CNN, the debt has been growing rapidly, with the total increasing by $1 trillion in just the past 5 months. Experts point to rising interest costs, an aging population, and increased spending on programs such as Social Security and Medicare as major factors behind the growing debt. Tax cuts and major spending packages approved in recent years, including pandemic relief measures, have also added trillions of dollars to projected federal borrowing. The federal government has already recorded a $1.8 trillion deficit during the first 10 months of the current fiscal year. Fiscal experts warn that without changes to spending and revenue policies, the growing debt burden could put increasing pressure on the U.S. economy and future generations. And finally, the United States and Canada are moving closer to a new trade agreement after several days of intensive negotiations aimed at resolving tariff disputes between the two countries. According to BBC News, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said negotiators are confident they have reached an agreement that would protect American jobs and supply chains while strengthening the North American economy. President Donald Trump said Canada has agreed to eliminate tariffs affecting U.S. farmers, while indicating that Washington could slightly reduce some tariffs imposed on Canadian goods. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said the proposed agreement would provide greater certainty and secure favorable terms for Canada's key strategic industries. Canada has been seeking lower U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminum, automobiles, and lumber, while Washington has pressed Ottawa for greater access to its dairy market and other concessions. The latest developments come after the Trump administration paused plans for new 50% tariffs on Canadian goods, giving negotiators more time to finalize the agreement. that concludes today's edition of World News in 5. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.